it's Game Raymer here. So today I'm going to talk about my complete Nintendo 64 console set. So let's begin. Alright, so first we have this solid gray Nintendo 64 system. And this was released in 1996 in America and Japan, and it was later released in 1997 in Europe. And this one is the American version that I have. And this came standard with a light gray controller. And later, there were other controller colors released for the system. So we have this solid red N64 controller. We have this solid blue N64 controller. We have this solid yellow. This solid green. And this solid black. So let's move on to my favorite of the Nintendo 64 series. So as you can see pictured, we have all of the Funtastic N64 consoles. So here we have the Nintendo 64 Grape console, and this was released worldwide. But in Japan, they actually called it Midnight Blue instead of Grape. Now, there's no color difference. It's just on what they titled the console color. And then we have this Jungle Green N64 controller and console. And Japan actually did not get this release. And then if we move on to this Ice Blue Nintendo 64, this was released everywhere but Japan. And in Japan, it was released as the two-tone console. So as you can see, is the top half is the ice blue color and the bottom half is a clear color. So on the controller, you see that the back is clear and the top is ice blue. And they did that for this console over here. We have the watermelon. And this was only released in America and Europe. So here we have this watermelon color. And in Japan, they released it as a two-tone. So once again, the bottom half of the controller and the console are clear, and the top half is that watermelon color. And then have this fire orange color, and this is also part of the Funtastic series. And behind it have this two-toned console variation, and this is known as the Daiei Hawks. And in Japan, this was released and sold at Daiei Hawks stores. And the Daiei Hawks is a baseball team in Japan, so this was modeled after that, and it is a limited edition. And it's different than the other two-toned console variations from Japan, because instead of it being clear on the bottom, it's a see-through black material. And then over here, the last Funtastic color, we have this smoke gray. And once again in Japan, they released it as this two-tone color, and they labeled it the Jusco, meaning Japan United Stores Company. And this was to commemorate their 30th anniversary at Jusco stores. So it's two-toned, and it's a smoke gray and a clear on the bottom. And then for controllers, we have the Atomic Purple, and this never was released with a matching console variant. And here we have the Extreme Green controller, and this was actually not released with any console variant as well. And it was only released in the United States, so this is one of those more sought after controllers out of the Funtastic series. variations. So right here we have the dark blue Pikachu edition, and this was released in America and Europe, and it came with this dark blue and yellow Pokemon controller. And the neat thing about the console is that it has Pikachu on it and a Pokeball. So right here, this is the on and off switch. And the neat thing about this is when this console turns on, Pikachu's cheeks light up. And they light up red, so that's really neat. And then it even says press here to reset, and it has a picture of Ash's face on it. And right here is Pikachu's foot, and that is the reset button. So I thought that was pretty neat. And it's a little bit larger than a regular sized Nintendo 64. So this is one of my personal favorite consoles. And then in Japan, they released a lighter blue Pikachu Nintendo 64. And the difference about this is that on the controller it says Pikachu Nintendo 64 instead of Pokemon. And as you can tell, it's a lighter color, but the same yellow. And then it even has the same thing. So it has the Pokeball for the on and off power switch, and it has Pikachu on it, which the foot is the reset button, and Pikachu's cheeks light up red. And then the same exact system and functionality, we have the Spice Orange Pikachu Nintendo 64 console, and this was also released in Japan, and it is called their Spice Orange color, and it has the same thing on the controller. It says Pikachu Nintendo 64, and the bottom is yellow, and it even has the same sticker, and it's in Japanese. And then our last one, we have this Australian Pokemon N64 system. And this one's a bit different than the others. So instead of it being blue on top, saying Pokemon, and yellow on the bottom, it's the complete opposite. So it's yellow on top and blue on the bottom. That was the standard controller that released with this system. And on top, you see that it says Pokemon, and it has some different Pokemon on there. So I thought that was pretty neat. So this one is named the Pokemon Stadium Battle Set. It's often referred to as the Pokemaniac version. So this one was released in Australia. And the neat thing about having all these different console variations is when you order them, you even see the different plugs that they use in that country. So this is a different plug than what is used in Japan and what is used in the United States. So that was a shock when I got it, because it really makes you think about what other countries use and how different we are. Some limited edition Nintendo 64 items. So right here is the gold Nintendo 64 system, and this was a Toys R Us exclusive for Japan and America. I have the American variant, and it's crazy to think that Toys R Us is going out of business because they had a lot of exclusives, and a lot of the history of video games came from Toys R Us. And then we move on to this console. This is the Korean version of the Nintendo 64, and based on the import ban in Japan at the time, they had to change some things on this Nintendo 64 system. So if we take a look at the controller, you see that it has the same logo here as it does on the expansion pack and on this console. And then when you flip it over, it even has a different sticker than the regular ones. It says Hyundai Comboy. So this one was one of the hardest ones for me to find. And even more rare is this red Hyundai Comboy controller. And throughout my collecting, I've only found a handful of other people that actually have this same controller. So this system was released with this gray controller, and this red controller was sold separately, and it's even more hard to find and sought after than this gray controller. And another neat part of this is this right here is the Korean plug for the Nintendo 64. So it's different than the other ones that I've showed you earlier. And here we have this last console variant. So this one, the only difference about this than a regular charcoal gray is this expansion lid right here. It says ANA with this logo on it. And if you didn't know, ANA stands for All Nippon Airways, and this is the Japanese airline. So the cool thing about this console is that it was given away on airlines in 1999 for a total of 3 months. And this was part of a contest. So randomly, people on the airline would be given a special box that contained this console, and it came with this game right here, Hey You Pikachu, and it came with this Pokemon Stadium game. So it's unclear exactly how many were given out, but this is one of the harder to find systems. To some other controllers in my collection. So here I have this box set, and this is the Mario Kart 64 controller and game box set. And this was released in Japan, and the neat thing about this controller is that it's different from the standard black or standard gray controllers in the set. So we have this two-toned controller, and the top is that charcoal color, and the bottom is that light gray. And then, going along with that two-tone variant, we have this Japanese limited edition Hello Mac controller. And on here, it is light gray and the charcoal. And on the top, it has this little imprint that is the Hello Mac mascot. And this is from the Hello Mac stores in Japan. And modeling after this release, we have this Japanese exclusive Jeffrey controller. And on here, it has an image the same way as the Hello Mac controller. It has Jeffrey the giraffe. And this is the Toys R Us variant of this controller. It's light gray and charcoal on top. And once again, it's crazy to think that right here I have one of the Toys R Us exclusives since they're going out of business. And here we have this gold Nintendo Power 100 controller. It may look like this standard gold controller, but right here it has a little sticker that says Nintendo Power 100. And you can only get this in the United States from the Nintendo Power magazine. This special controller was to commemorate the 100th issue of the Nintendo Power magazine. And on that same note, I have this yellow Donkey Kong 64 controller. And this one you could also get as a Donkey Kong promo item from the Nintendo Power magazine in the United States. And on the ends of the controller, it makes it look like the ends of bananas. And it even says Donkey Kong 64. So this one's a neat little controller. So thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and be sure to check out my other videos. you.